Can you hear? Can you see this?
Yes. Thank you.
Great. Great.
You can directly move to the next slide. Oh,
yeah.
Yes. Thank you. So thank you first, MFC, to give us the opportunity to present microStart and our methodology. So microStart is the biggest microfinance institution in Belgium. We exist now since a bit more than 10 years. And what we do is provide microcredits to people that do not have access to the traditional banking system. Next to that, we also give support. That's free support to prepare people on how to start a business, on how to develop a business, and also individual coaching. And then we also do advocacy. So it's defending the rights of the micro entrepreneurs with a focus on the ones that do not have access to financial systems, but also to the classical mainstream support schemes. So in general, it's the entrepreneurs that face higher barriers than others. And of course, migrants and refugees are part of this group, these underserved groups. And you can move to the next slide. Yeah, I wanted to start with a small example because it's always more illustrative than just to start with telling what we do. It's the story of Mustafa. So he comes from Syria, and he had for several years a flower shop in Syria. And when he arrived to Belgium, he actually thought like, okay, I actually want to do the same thing in Belgium, but it was not that easy. So first he had to get to know the habits, the sector. So he started with an internship, and then a short work experience. But then he got unemployed, and so he decided to really start a business. So to do what he dreamt of, and so he actually came to microStart via his neighbors. He got to know microStart. And he received support from our advisor, Zidane. And Zidane is a dedicated advisor, himself also a Syrian refugee. And so he really could make the bridge between like the reality of Mustafa, who wanted to start a business in Belgium, and also entrepreneurship in Belgium with all the administrative steps, the legal aspects, also to help him with his financial plan and business plan, make sure it's realistic in a Belgian context. So that was quite important as well. But also, Mustafa speaks a little Dutch, but he could be helped in Arabic thanks to Zidane. So that was also easier for him to understand. And we also granted him a micro loan to start his company. And so that's how he started. And it's now a quite well running flower shop in Geraardsberg. So that's the introduction on our work with refugees and migrants. You can move to the next slide. Oh, yes. I also wanted to give you a bit more information about the Belgian context, because the National Bank has published a bit more than a year ago a study that says that actually the immigration boosts the economy. But still, there is a big difference for people with a migrant or refugee background and for Belgian nationals to find a job. We're quite performing one of the worst of all the EU countries on that level. And so one of the alternatives on finding a job is starting their own business to make sure they can socially and economically integrate in our society. But the barriers to become self-employed are high. For Belgians, but even higher for people with a migrant background, because of this language or cultural differences, the tougher access to finance, but also, all the habits, the codes that are more difficult to understand. So that's why at microStart we said, like, okay, we want to develop a methodology to really make sure that we can support the people with a migrant background with the help they need, so adapted to their needs, and to give them access to skills and knowledge to make sure they can start a business in a well-prepared way, and also a way that can be durable over time. So you can move to the next slide. So that's why we developed a methodology. It was a methodology that was developed over time with like new needs coming up, and then we co-created also with partners. So first, we adapted our business support tools. We see that language is a main barrier for refugees and migrants that want to start a business. So we said, like, okay, let's develop already some flyers and also all other communication material in English, in Arabic, in Farsi. We also developed a tool, e-learning on our websites to actually help to make a business plan. It was translated in English, and it was also translated in Arabic, also together with another partner. So that's one part on the tools, but also we hired, like I told you about the story of Mustafa, we hired some coaches, some advisors, we call them our community officers, that are dedicated to support better migrants that want to start their business. The idea is really to bridge that gap and to better understand the needs on one part of the migrant starter, but on the other part also to really make sure that he or she gets access to the support he or she needs. We work, as I told you, we also give one-on-one coaching, also collective sessions on entrepreneurship, on starting a business in Belgium. And we wanted to make sure that our coaches, who are all volunteers, they also had an adapted methodology, because these coaches, I think 80 or 85% are men. They are mostly white men and also mostly retired, which means that the gap between the coachee and the coach is not always like it's not always easy to understand each other, and that's why we also provided coaching for the coaches to make sure that they could understand each other's reality. Another thing we did is we created a interest-free microcredits. So that's for people that don't want to pay interest because of religious purposes or cultural purposes. So here, instead of having a microcredit with interest, you have a microcredit with a high administrative costs. It's not used a lot, but still it's an opportunity for people that really don't want to have a loan with interest, and to make sure that they can also have access to funding to start their business. Since last year, we also have a dedicated campaign. What is the aim of the campaign? I will tell you about it later, because the next one is actually in a bit more than 2 weeks. The aim is to encourage people with a migrant background to start a business, because often it's not seen as a solution. They say, like, okay, I cannot find a job, but then it stops. So we really want to make sure that we can reach people, and that those who have the dream to start can do it. So to really reach the people, give them information, sensitize them about the possibilities here in Belgium. And then I also want to say, like, in this methodology, partnerships are really key, because microStart alone, it's very good to have an adapted methodology, but that's the main thing, is to work together with all the other organizations we work together. For example, integration offices, where we give information sessions on how to start a business in Belgium. Also other partners that offer support services or coaching to starters and entrepreneurs. We have a lot of partners that are also offering support in other languages, like Turkish, like it can be a lot of other languages. So it's always good to know these partners and to work together and to learn from each other as well. We also work together, for example, with Women Network that organizes events to make sure that women with a migrant background that want to start or develop a business can gather, so that they can also exchange and learn from each other. So we really try to have a very broad ecosystem, because that's what works best in our opinion. You can move to the next slides. Thank you. A bit more about our figures at microStart. So 58 of the people that we support financially are born outside the EU. So maybe I wrote migrants in the next slide. So that's what we mean with migrant. It's people that are born outside the EU. And 9% of the people that we support are recognized refugees. And to give you an example, last year we supported in total 665 people. And that's a bit the average on yearly, like between 600 and 700, sorry, people that we support financially each year. And yeah, I think more than 1,500 that we support with business development services. So not all the people that get coaching at microStart also get a loan. Sometimes they are not ready. Sometimes it's not the good solution for them. And then it's also our role to tell it and to coach them in a way that they could find another alternative or better prepared to start later. Also, a small challenge I wanted to share with you is that of the refugees that we support, 85% are men. That's also linked to a lot of things. For example, that from the refugees that we support, more men want to start a business, but also that probably we don't reach to the women. So I will talk a bit later on how we can also address that challenge. You can move to the next slides. Oh, yes, I wanted to tell like the campaign, it's on the 17th of June. I wanted to give a bit more information on what is the aim of the campaign. So like I told you, it's to sensitize on the possibilities of starting a business in Belgium. It's also to tell that microStart can help, and microStart, but also the other partners. So the events that we organize, they are everywhere in Belgium. So we have 5 agencies in the biggest cities of Belgium, and in each city we organized 2 events with partners. It's the aim of the campaign is also to connect starters and entrepreneurs with a migrant background. We see also that a mental barrier to start a business is a big one, like to have the self-confidence on, okay, I'm ready, I can start a business in Belgium. That sometimes is missing, and then connecting with each other and getting like encouragement from a network or from other organizations are quite important as well. So that's why we organize these types of events as well. And that's why we also work with role models. So we try to make sure that we invite a person that started a business and that has a success story to share that can also encourage and inspire the potential entrepreneurs. We also have made actually a nice video. I first wanted to share it with you, but it's in French. But if you're interested, you can still go to our YouTube page, because yeah, I would recommend it. It's a nice video. A success story of a Syrian refugee who started a restaurant in the center of Brussels. I've been there, I think 2 or 3 times, and each time it was full. So very nice story. And yeah, he can definitely also inspire others. So that's also a thing that we hope to reach with the campaign.
Maybe you can paste it in the chat later on. Yeah?
I will, thank you. And then, yeah, as I told you in the beginning, advocacy, it's also one of our roles. So it's really to make sure that we could, yeah, we can participate on lowering the barriers to migrant entrepreneurs that have the wish to start a business in Belgium. You can move to the next slide. Yes. I also wanted to share a specific project we are conducting now. It's a pilot project that we are doing since the end of 2021. So it's in partnership with UNHCR Belgium and the Umbrella Refugee Committee. And the Umbrella Refugee Committee is actually umbrella organization of several refugee committees that organize themselves to work around themes like housing, education, etc., etc. And so, in the part of employment, that's also a thematic. There's also entrepreneurship, and that's why we sat at the table with UNHCR and the Umbrella Refugee Committee and said, like, okay, what can we do to make sure that the people that want to start a business or that think about it, that they have access to the right information. So we said, like, okay, today microStart doesn't automatically reach the persons. So what we did is train some key persons of the several refugee committees. So there are 7 refugee committees in Belgium, and I think they are also creating a Ukrainian refugee committee for the moment. So we trained them about, okay, the steps on becoming self-employed in Belgium, but also on how to give information to a group, for example. So the idea is really that they become kind of entrepreneurship ambassadors, with the key persons that have the information about entrepreneurship in Belgium. And their role is to organize group sessions to sensitize it and inform about how to start a business in their communities. And when they meet people that really have a clear business idea and that want to go further or have more information, then they can reorient them to microStart, where they can have an appointment with a coach, which is of course free as well. All our support is free. To, for example, think about the business idea, work on the financial plan, and also with an advisor who can, if they want, help them to request a loan at microStart. Yes, I just wanted to add that for the context with the Ukrainian crisis, we also are included in some working groups with several partners, public authorizations, but also with UNHCR to see how we can respond to their needs. So we will not adapt our methodology because I think we have a methodology that works with this refugee and migrant starters or entrepreneurs. They have actually the same needs, the same barriers that they face. But what we want to do is still be present at some events they organized. For example, there's end of June a job day where Ukrainians in Belgium can go and have more information about how to find a job, where to find a job. And there microStart will also be present to give information about entrepreneurship. So the idea is mostly to inform and to make sure that they have an idea on, okay, if they want to start a business, where can they go, which organization can help. And of course, microStart can also help with some business development support and also microcredits. So that was it for my parts. I would be very glad to respond to your questions if you have some.
Yeah, please go ahead. This is the time for a question, comment, suggestions.
Can I ask a question, Olivia, about the campaigns that you talked about? I think you said that you did them in 10 different cities. Did you say you did them with different partners?
Yeah.
And I just wondered what sort of organizations were your partners in those events? Were they the city municipalities or were they private sector organizations?
Yeah, it depends. So mostly in like 3 of the 5 cities, it's with it's in 5 cities. It's 10 events in 5 cities, but in 3 of the 5 cities, it's with integration centers. So yeah, that's really the first place where we can give information on how to about entrepreneurship first, entrepreneurship being an option for them, and then how to start a business and how to proceed, and also the financial aspect of it, of course, with the microcredit options. But also it's with the social welfare institution. I don't know if I translated well, but so in Ghent we organize it with them because the refugees and migrants, often that's the first place they can have a social, like a welfare allocation from. And there they also get a lot of support. And so with them, we also organize it. And then with money trans, who makes it able to send money to other countries. We also organize some events because they are also very included in the diaspora, and it makes sense to reach their public as well.
Great, thanks.
You're welcome.
Olivia, thank you so much for your presentation. And I have a question about these female refugees, right? Because you promised to say a few more words. Very interesting.
Sorry.
That's okay. But that's extremely interesting. Like, is it only the outreach? I understand that you are establishing certain already the channels of outreach, but is it only the outreach, or there are also other issues, you know, like cultural, children being taken care of? So what are the barriers really from your perspective, and if you have already any ideas how to overcome?
There are indeed several barriers, and one is for sure the children and the cultural barriers. I was also microcredit advisor myself, so in specific cases I saw that the man was coming to ask a credit, but the wife was actually doing the business. So it's only on paper that we see that the man is helped, but actually it's the couple that help, that is supported. So they are both supported. I think it's the outreach. It's also the realities, like for example, Syrian communities, Afghan communities. We see more men wanting to start a business. I'm sure with the Ukrainian crisis, it will be the opposite. So it's also linked to those realities. What we also did, and that's why I said that I was going to tell, but I forgot. It's with the pilot project of the community coaches. We actually for now trained 12 people, and 8 of the 12 are women. So we hope that we can also work on the reach with this project, because one of the refugee committees in Belgium is the Women Refugee Committees. So Women Refugee Committee. So it's not. It's women only, and we know that with this committee we can really reach a lot of people that think about starting a business. And for example, we have women that wear the veil, and we know that that's an issue when you want to start to find a job. And so entrepreneurship can be an alternative, but it's a bit too early to tell if we really are going to reach more women, and if they're going to start more businesses or not. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
I was actually going to ask the same question, Eva, so thank you for that. Anyone else?
So maybe just one question, Olivia. Like, can you just share a bit on how, if possible, how you finance really those all the non-financial services, right? So how much, what's the kind of balance between financing it from your own resources, meaning loans, or how much do you finance it from the grants? So if you can just
So it's difficult to separate microcredit and business development services, but it's quite interlaced. And also for the support services, we work with volunteers, so they offer their services for free. But what I can say about microStart as a whole is that 40% of the financial income we have is from our own revenues. And the rest, like 40% is from 43 to be very exact, is from subsidies. So that's also public subsidies and private subsidies, and the rest is supported by our shareholders. So that's a bit the distinction between it. But yeah,
thanks.
we exist since 10 years now, and it's really an objective as well to try to have more revenues from ourselves, but still by offering an interest rate that is also acceptable for the public we target. So it's always like the interest rate hasn't changed since the beginning. We do not intend on changing it, but it's important that we can, for example, adapt for example, the digitalization. It also helped us to help our customers more efficiently, and also we try to reach also more subsidies for a specific project or for microcredits as a whole.
Thank you.
Could I ask another question? Is that okay? Sorry if this is a bit of a basic question, Olivia, but am I right in thinking that you offer, let's say, a fairly generic range of products, but then you target particular communities or groups through the outreach activities, and you tailor the outreach activities to them, and then the products and the, if you like, the processes that underpin those products are pretty much the same in all cases. Is that how it works?
Yes, the financial products are only loans, so it's quite a simple loans up to 25,000 euro, and we don't adapt the loans. The only adaptation we made specifically to the public, it's this interest-free loans, where the interest is actually administrative costs. Yes. But it's the manner on indeed outreaching or on supporting that is adapted to the target, the different targets.